Okay, we are starting again. This is going to be card number 5, and we're going to do our examples of quadrilateral. So it should go a little bit faster now. Number 5 is a parallelogram. This is our first type of quadrilateral. So on the front, that's the spelling right there, parallelogram. I abbreviate it P-gram a lot of times. On the bottom, just draw any example of a parallelogram. So I've got one right here. You can copy this one the best you can. On the back of your parallelogram card, which is number 5, the definition, most specifically for a parallelogram, write this down on top. A quad with opposite sides parallel. That's the definition. Quadrilateral, I abbreviate quad with opposite sides parallel. Then draw another quadrilateral right there. And we're going to mark it up here. So opposite angles are also congruent. So opposite, the first thing it says is opposite sides are parallel. So let's mark that. Top and bottom, parallel. That's our marks like we talked about before. Left and right also would go on forever and never touch. So they're going to get 2 marks. They would go on forever and never touch. Opposite angles are also congruent. So maybe switch to your other colored pencil here, not to get it so confused. So this angle on top right here is opposite is down here. These two are congruent. So I'm going to put one line just like we do for the sides, just showing that these 2 angles are congruent. They're also obtuse, if you notice. They're definitely bigger than 90 degrees. These 2 angles are not bigger than 90 degrees, so they're acute angles. They are also congruent, which means exactly the same. So put 2 lines on them. Make this little line and then 2 lines right there. That shows these 2 are congruent. These 2 are congruent. Altogether, they would add up to 360 degrees. Next part, diagonals bisect each other. You don't have to write this part in. I'm just going to show you, but they do. So that corner to corner, boom, boom, and bisecting. Yes, they're both making triangles that are even. No lines of symmetry on this. I'm going to switch one more time here, maybe a blue, because if I cut it right here, this would not be a mirror image, right? It's close, but it's going to overlap on this side and be under on this side. Same thing top and bottom. So this is not doesn't have any symmetry, but the diagonals do bisect each other. So this is a parallelogram. Your next card, number 6, is going to be a square. Everyone's familiar with squares, but they have a lot of significance as quadrilaterals because they're special. So square, number 6, draw a square on the front so it looks something like this. The actual definition of a square is right here. So on top of your card, a quad with 4 congruent sides, 4 right angles. Take a minute to write that in. A quad with 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles. The other special things about a square are down here on the bottom. Opposite sides are parallel. So this is parallel. Top and bottom, left and right are parallel. Mark it in with your colored pencil. Write that on the bottom of your card. Again, whenever you need to stop the video, just stop the video. All sides and angles are congruent. If all sides are congruent, you can just put this same 1 on all 4 sides because you know that all 4 sides are congruent. Diagonals are also congruent. So I'm going to switch to my red here. My diagonals are not straight, but they're congruent. There we go. Same thing. So you could put a 2 here, just indicating that all 4 of these are exactly the same length. It has 4 lines of symmetry. You could cut it here, make a mirror image. You could cut it here, mirror image. You could cut it the diagonal mirror image, diagonal mirror image. So all of those are lines of symmetry. So a square is also a parallelogram because we just had a parallelogram. The only definition of the parallelogram was opposite sides parallel. Opposite sides are parallel of a square also. Top and bottom parallel, left and right parallel. So a square is also a parallelogram, but a parallelogram, not a square, because it has to have all of these things to be a square. It's got to have 4 congruent sides. The parallelogram